Okay, hi. じゃあ、let's go through chapter 9 of Genki. Okay? chapter 9 of Genki is pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but it's continuation of last chapter. Last chapter we learned casual speech. So we're going to cover past tense in casual speech. So if you can write this chart. Present tense, present or future, right? And past tense. Positive, negative, past positive, past negative. Okay. And this is, again, casual speech, or we also call it plain form, or short form. Many names. Okay. Noun and adjective, as you might already know. An adjective is a hybrid of noun and adjective. So when it comes to conjugation, it's 99% same as the noun. And it's the same with the casual conjugation. So I put it together. Present positive, let's review. Da in parentheses, meaning in some cases we use da, in some other cases we don't use da. Let's cover the cases when we use da. One was monologue situation, right? Meaning, like when you write in diary, or like when you are talking to yourself. In that case, it is fine to end the sentence if the ending of a sentence is either noun or adjective, present positive, then it is okay to end with that. 今日はいい天気だ. Today is a good weather. You can say that to yourself, or today's a good weather, like, just talking to yourself or writing diary, right? Okay, that's one situation where we can use that. Second situation was if it's part of a grammar point. Meaning some grammar points require you to use that when the ending is noun or non-adjective. Present positive, one was the one that we learned, 思います. I think blank. Or someone said blank, right? If the ending is noun or adjective, present positive, then we do have to put that. This is just part of the ground point here to connect to と思いますと言っていました. So for example, if you want to say, I think I'm Japanese, then 私は日本人だと思います。私は日本人だと思います。Okay? All right. E adjective. Well, the present positive is the easiest, right? Because it's basically dictionary form. So oishi will be just oishi. No need to change. Okay, let's move on to verbs. Ru verb. Ru verb 2, just, normal dictionary form, 食べる. Ru verb. Ru verb 2, normal conjugation. For example, 行く will be 行く. Irregular. Irregular verbs, for example, to do. Again, just diction form. To come, diction form. So, if you remember when I explained about the chapter 8, when it comes to present positive, we don't need to worry about here. The only thing we need to worry about this da in parentheses. So we need to know when we can use that. Okay? Everything else other than here We don't use that, okay? Okay, let's move on to present negative. Noun and adjective, just janai, right? Just take off this from polite speech. 日本人じゃない. I'm not Japanese. Or E adjective too. By just taking off this, it becomes casual. So if you know polite version of present negative, then you know the casual version too. Oishi becomes oishiku nai. Take off E and ku nai, right? And then, of course, take off this, and this becomes casual. Okay. Ru verb negative. This one, take off ru and add nai. So taberu becomes tabenai. Okay, u verb is a little bit tricky, so you want to be careful. Change the u sound to a sound plus nai. Okay, so for example, let's do shinu, to die. Shinu is nu here. Well, let's do it here. Easier here. Shinu. Change this to a sound. With that, this becomes na. So shina. And then add nai. Okay. So shinanai. There is two na. This na from this one. Okay. Shinanai. I won't die. Okay. One thing you want to be careful about is if the verb, u verb, if the last hiragana of the u verb doesn't have a consonant. For example, the verb to meet, au. This is to meet. The verb to buy, kau. What else do we have? To say. To say, you. Okay, these three verbs, for example, it's just u at the end. There's no consonant. If we just follow the rule here, change to a sound plus nai, then it's going to be a nai, ka nai, I nai. This in Japanese perspective, it sounds weird. I mean, especially like a nai, right? So in this case, when there's no consonant at the end of an u verb, we add a consonant. We add W. Okay. With this, follow the rule. So change U sound to A sound. So awa nai. Kawa nai. Iwa nai. So this one, tricky. So make sure you know. For now, I guess I'll just put au becomes awa nai. Okay. Hi. Okay, move on to suru, shinai. Since these are irregular, we just have to memorize kuru, konai. It's ko. It's tricky. Okay, so this is what we covered in chapter 8. Present tense or future tense. Now we're gonna move on to past tense. Okay, so past positive. I mean, okay. One thing that is good to know, past tense basically has ta at the end. That ta at the end signifies past. So with that, imagine from da in present to past tense. Data sounds weird. So in Japanese perspective, so they added small tsu. So datta. So if you want to say, I was Japanese, 私は日本人だった. Okay. E adjective. Again, E adjective is easy as long as you know the polite speech version. Just take off this. So, 美味しい becomes 美味しかった, right? Just take off this. 美味しかった. Blue verb. Okay. Well, this one, when it comes to verb, Past positive. It's the same rule across all the verbs, just for past positive. And that is, we have 2 steps. Step 1, change to te form. Step 2, once we change to te form, there are 2 ways of ending. Te form usually ends with te, that's why it's called te form. But verb te form, right? Some verbs like oyogu is oyoide. So some verbs among verbs end with de. In that case, with that, there's te or de variation, right? When it comes to te form. Step 2 will be, if it ended with te, replace that with ta, and it becomes past tense. For example, let's do au. Au, te form is atte. Now replace this te with ta. With that, atta means met as a past tense. Now, if it ends with de, then replace that with da. So at least it's consistent in that if there are dots in te form, then you do add dots to past tense ta. So, for example, oyoide, replace there with da. Oyoida means I swam as past tense. Okay, so this one is a little bit, annoying because there are 2 steps, but at least it's the same rule across all the verbs. So once you memorize these 2 steps, you don't need to worry about all the verbs when it comes to past positive. So in that sense, I guess it can be simple. Okay, past negative. Past negative is the easiest. I mean, I guess the present positive, present positive is, I guess, the easiest because it's basically dictionary form, but past negative is the second easiest because it's same across all the words. So it's really simple. This one too, though, has 2 steps. Step 1, change to present negative, meaning this one here, all the present negative here, okay? If you know the rules here, how to change the present negative, then you know past negative. Okay, that's the first step, right? Change the present negative. Step 2, as you can see here, when we look at present negative here, right? It ends with nai. All the words end with nai. Nai, 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 nai. Okay? So with that, step 2 will be change nai to past tense. Nakatta. Why is it nakatta? It's really good and important to know that nai as a word, meaning non-existent. That's why this is the opposite of aru. This is good to know because here, many people make mistake when it comes to negative of aru exist in terms of non-living being, right? Okay, so common mistake that people make. They'll be like, okay, aru is verb. Okay, what's the negative of verb? The rule was to change u to a sound plus nai, right? So aru becomes ara and then add nai, ara nai. This is the common mistake people make. But remember that aru means exist. And like I explained, nai means non-existent as an adjective, specifically E adjective. Nai itself is a word meaning non-existent. Because it means non-existent, it is exactly opposite meaning of aru, exist. Because of this relationship, for the verb aru, we don't conjugate to negative, meaning we don't conjugate to say aranai. We just use nai, the opposite word. Okay, this is important to remember. So that's why, for example, if you want to say there's money, I have money, お金, お金がある. If you want to say I don't have money, just change ある to ない. お金がない, right? Okay, so with this, back to past positive, sorry, past negative here. Once we change to present negative, all the words will end with nai. And like I said earlier, nai means non-existent and it is an E adjective. Nai itself is E adjective. It's important to remember this because if you remember this, many things from now on will be easier. Okay. Since it's E adjective, if we want to make this negative to past negative, we can just use the E adjective rule to change the past tense, meaning it's here, this one. Just change to past tense, specifically past positive, right? Because this is already negative, so we don't need to change to past negative, just past tense. And the rule was take off E and add katta, and it becomes past tense, right? So with that, nai becomes nakatta, past negative. And that's it. Okay, so let's practice a little bit. For example, I didn't go to Japan. If it's confusing, it's always good to simplify stuff. So if this conjugation is confusing, for now, let's say we can change it to just affirmative or positive. How do you say I went to Japan? 日本に went, past positive, this one, right? But again, we just simplified it. So now let's undo the simplification. Didn't go. The verb iku, we have to change this to past negative. 2 steps. Step 1, let's change iku to present negative first. Iku is an u verb, so change u to a plus nai, right? So iku becomes ikanai. And then nai, step 2, change nai to nakatta. Oops. Nakatta. So ikanakatta. 日本に行かなかった is I didn't go. Okay. Hope that made sense. 日本に行かなかった Okay, so this is the whole chart of casual speech. I hope it's not too messy. But like I always explain, the most important thing, well, I explained that present positive is not that important because it's mostly just present, mostly just dictionary form. We just need to be careful about that. And then past negative too, not that important, right? Because it's the same rules across all the all the words, the 2 steps, right? So as long as we know present negative, meaning here, then past positive is easy. So with that, present negative is really important. We do need to really make sure to memorize and master. And then past positive too, there are some new rules here, new rules of conjugation. So memorize this. But at least it's easier since all the verbs are the same rules, right? So this one too, I mean, as long as you know Teflon, make sure you know Teflon, okay? Then it should be easy because 오이시카tta, this one we already learned in polite speech, right? Just take off this. And datta too, if we know da from present positive, just add ta to make it past tense. Datta sounds weird, so add smotsu datta. So with that, again, the most important thing that we want to really make sure we know is present negative and past positive. These two. These are the most important. So as long as you master this, you're good. Okay? Right. So that's past positive. Um, with this, we can now speak all in casual speech, which is great. Let's review the basic rules of casual speech, how to talk in casual speech. There are certain rules. Okay. This chart, you can write this chart. Okay. So let's compare with polite speech, polite and casual speech. Okay. First of all, pronouns. Oops. Pronouns. In polite speech, we typically use watashi, right, to be neutral and stuff. But in casual speech, you get to decide what pronoun you want to use. Simply, watashi, when you use watashi in casual setting, this is feminine. Variation of watashi, we have atashi. It's feminine plus a little bit cool compared to the normal watashi. Okay. Boku. Boku is masculine, but at the same time, cute. Cute masculine. That's why usually younger kids, typically until elementary school, elementary boys will use. Ore. Ore is masculine plus cool. So typically, after elementary school, the boys will start to use ore. Okay. These are the four main pronouns, but as you might know, there are tons of pronouns in Japanese. So of course it's your pronouns, so you decide. But yeah. Okay. Next one. Let's cover the hai. Oops, wow. Yes, how to say yes. Implied it's hai. It's in casual speech. No, it's iye. Casual speech. Un. Okay, make sure you go up, go down, go up at the end. Make sure you really focus on this because if you don't do it, it's gonna sound like yes. So you want to be careful. Okay. What else do we have in casual speech? There's not that many particles. Some changes in particles. We do need it in polite speech, okay? But then when it comes to casual speech, we can typically omit main particles, meaning what are the main particles? Usually particles that designate subject of a sentence and then also object of a sentence. And those are, for subject, it's wa or ga, right? And then for object, it's o. So we can omit these main particles because we can just assume it's obvious. When the context is obvious, we can omit. So for example, I can say something like 俺、今日、ハンバーガー食べた. Typically in polite speech, right? We need 俺は今日. We don't need particle after 今日 because it's relative to now. ハンバーガーを食べた, right? So typically we use は or in this sentence, but because these are main, we can just take it off. 俺今日ハンバーガー食べた, right? So these stuff. はい。Lastly, suffixes, I guess. Suffix. Okay. Polite, whatever this, mass, variation, we can just add ne or yo, right? Ne to mean something, something, right? To confirm information with the other person. Yo is when you want to give the other person as new information. In English, it's kind of difficult to translate, but it can be like actually, for example, like if someone comes to me and asks me, hey, are you an American? And since I'm not an American, I can say 日本人ですよ. Hey, I'm actually Japanese because by putting this, I'm giving this as new information because the other person didn't know. Of course, we can use the suffixes in casual speech. Just normally, just whatever sentence you want to put, just add your on it. But one thing you want to be careful is if the ending of a sentence is noun or na adjective, present positive. Going back to that for conjugation chart. Present positive, noun, na adjective is da, right? We do need to put da. Da yo, da ne. So this one is just one, you know, a little bit confusing one, but just make sure you remember. Now, it is okay to take off da and just say yo, ne, for example. 俺は日本人よ. But if you don't put da after noun or an adjective, present positive, if you skip this and just put these suffixes, then these will sound feminine. So it does still make sense. It is grammatical. Just know that you're gonna give off feminine energy by doing that. So with this, sorry, I forgot to add one more thing. Question, right? When we want to ask a question, in polite speech, we add ka at the end. Since we add ka to signify it's a question, we don't need to put a question mark. Actually, we don't usually. Officially, we just put the period. But in casual speech, we don't add ka. Because we don't add ka, we have to specify that it's still somehow a question, right? How do we specify? By raising the tone at the end, kind of similar to English. Are you stupid? Go up. Genki, go up. That means, how are you? Genki, go down. That becomes a statement, meaning, I am fine. So, Genki, Genki, like that, okay? And then because we don't have ka, we do put question mark to make sure it's question, because when we are talking, yeah, we can raise the tone and that's how people can tell. But if we are writing, right, like Genki, we wouldn't know if this is a question or a statement. So we do add question mark. Okay, so with this, we can now fully talk in casual speech, which is great. Finally, right? Okay, next grammar point. It's basically saying, chapter 8, we learned whatever to omoimasu. Whatever to itte imashita. Meaning, I think blank. Someone said blank, right? Whatever we want, we can just put it here, make sure the ending is casual. This is what we learned in chapter 8. Now, chapter 9 version of this is just that we can now have past tense in here, and that's it. That's it. We can just add this if we want. So for example, if you want to say, I think the test was easy. The test was, easy. テスト。テストは easy can be 優しい is what we learned in textbook, but 優しい 99% of the time it means kind, so let's not use this. 簡単 is what we use all the time. 簡単 means easy. Was past tense. It's not wasn't, so it's past positive. 簡単, what kind of word is 簡単? Non-adjective. So check the non-adjective past positive, which is だった, right? So テストは簡単だった. And then just add と思う, I think. So nothing new. It's the same grammar point. It's just that now that we know past tense, we can put past tense. That's it. No other change. Same thing. Yeah, easy. Okay. Let's move on to next one. Next grammar point is the most important grammar point. It's noun qualifying sentence. Now, what does this mean? It's basically, to be simple, it's a sentence that describes a noun. It's basically an extra detailed sentence that explains more about whatever noun that you're talking about. What does this mean in English? It's basically noun that, who, where, when, right? These stuff, sub-sentence that you're explaining about. Let's cover this, for example. I can list some stuff. I went to a school that my dad went. I know the person. Who went to Japan, for example. I remember, I don't know how to spell. I remember the time when I was stupid, for example. Okay, so all of these sentences use this structure, right? Noun, and based on what the noun is, we decide the most appropriate, word from here, and then sub-sentence. So here, looking at this actual sentences, right? I went to a school. School is the noun that is being described more in detail. School that my dad went. So this my dad went is considered sub-sentence explaining more about the noun. I went to school, then my dad went. I know the person is the noun that is being described more, who went to Japan. Went to Japan is the subsentence explaining more about the person. I remember the time in this case. In this case, time is a noun that's being described when I was stupid. I was stupid is the qualifying sentence or subsentence explaining more about time, right? Now, so far we've just covered in English. We just analyzed this grammar point in English. Now, let's see how we can do this in Japanese. It's basically the opposite order. We start with subsentence that is explaining more about the noun, and then noun. Okay. Now you might wonder, do we have anything like this in Japanese? Meaning, do we do anything to connect subsentence to the noun? Simple answer, no. Just make sure the end of the subsentence here is plain, meaning casual form. As long as it's casual form, then we can directly connect to noun. Okay, so for example, let's try some of these sentences, right? Let's try, I went to school that my dad went. Okay. One, you know, well, it's good to analyze the sentence first, right? I went to school. This noun is the one that's being described. My dad went is the subsentence, right? So when I ask you, hey, what's the main sentence? The main sentence is I went to school, right? Because the rest of it here is just describing more about school. So it's good to just translate the main sentence. How do you say I went to school? 私は学校に行きました。Okay. Now we're gonna have to put this sub-sentence. Where do we put? Before, right before the noun that we are describing, right? Right before the noun. In this case, we're describing the word school. So that is here, right? 学校. So we have to put my dad went here, right before the noun. Okay. Don't put it here because that means you're describing this noun. So, okay. All right. How do you say my dad went? 私のお父さん。お父さんは行きました。went. Now, how do we connect? Make sure the ending of the subsentence is plain. Oops. Or casual speech, right? Casual form. So, 行きました was the casual version of 行きました. Two steps, right? For past positive verbs. Two steps. Here, past positive. Change the te form first. After that, if it's te, change to ta. If it's de, change to da. With that, te form of 行く is 行って change to ta. 私のお父さんは行った. Now, we're going to put this right before the now. So with this, we have 私のお父さんは行った学校に行きました. There's one thing that we have to change. We're almost there. 99% complete. Okay, so one step that we have to always be careful about is within the subsentence, if there is the particle wa, change that to ga. Again, this is only talking about within the subsentence. Now let's check the subsentence here. 私のお父さんは Yes, we do have the particle wa. Change this to ga. Okay. You might wonder why. Why do we change wa to ga? Again, it's gonna take a little bit for me to explain, but so you can either just blindly memorize here, which is totally fine, or just listen to my explanation, and if it makes sense, you know, great. But if it doesn't make sense, then just blindly memorize. Okay, so let's put this in one sentence. 私は私のお父さん。For now, let's put both version, right? お父さんはお父さんが This is within the subsentence. 行った学校に行った。行きました。Right? Okay. So, first of all, just to briefly, super briefly review the difference between wa and ga, right? Any sentence can be divided into two, subject and topic. Topic meaning whatever the subject does is topic, right? So I play baseball. I is the subject, play baseball is topic, right? Okay, between subject and topic, we can add either wa or ga, because by putting these, we're telling that, hey, this noun is the subject, right? But then we also learned that if we put ga, at the same time, when we are telling that the noun is subject, we are emphasizing the subject, meaning we use ga when the subject is new info, like I did it, you know, that kind of emphasis. If we put wa, then not only do we make the noun subject of the sentence, but we are emphasizing the topic side, meaning whenever there's new information on the topic side, we want to put wa. Okay. With this function that wa and ga have, let's analyze here. Okay. All right. So first wa, 私は, because there's wa here, this is emphasizing the whole topic here. It's emphasized, right? Let's cover the main, not the main, the subsentence, subsentences. This one, this is the subsentence, right? Subsentence connected to this noun. Okay, so if we use wa here, then because of the function that wa has, it emphasizes the right part, right? Meaning it's gonna emphasize here, which doesn't make sense. Do you understand why? Because it only emphasizes this verb of this subsentence. Subsentence is here. And also not only this, but also it emphasizes the rest of it, 学校に行った. So okay, so just to make sure you understand, this wa is fine because just simply we emphasize the rest of the sentence. Simple and good. But then this wa only emphasizing this verb within the subsentence, but also here. There's some inconsistency of emphasis. Okay. We are already, with this wa, we are already emphasizing the whole thing, meaning we are already emphasizing this part too, because this part is, the right side of this wa. But then with this wa, we are saying, hey, we are only emphasizing to the right from here when we have already emphasized this part with this wa. So there's like inconsistency with where you want to emphasize. Does that make sense? Okay. It is a little bit confusing. Okay. So what do we do? God, right? What happens when we instead add God? Does it also have the same problem of inconsistency of emphasis? Well, as you remember, by putting God, we emphasize just the subject, right? Only the subject we emphasize. So we emphasize within this subsentence, right? お父さん. So here, yes, wa here does emphasize this whole part, but then within the subsentence, we are just emphasizing this お父さん. So my dad went. In this way, it doesn't overlap in terms of it's not inconsistent with the emphasis. I mean, of course, like, you can say that, well, wa emphasize this whole part and ga only this part. What about here? This one is, also supposed to be emphasizing here and that kind of stuff. Yeah, technically, yes, but compared to here, compared to using wa, it's a lot easier and it does make a lot more sense by using ga because ga only emphasizes here. That makes sense. So basically, ga is the best option. Of course, it's not perfect in terms of, consistency of emphasis, but it is the best option we have. I hope that makes sense. If it didn't make sense, like I said again, just blindly memorize. That's totally fine. Okay? Just make sure whenever you translate, at the end, double check if there's particle wa within the subsentence. Just that one last step, remember. Okay? So with that, the final product of the sentence, I went to a school that my dad went, is this. Not wa. 私は私のお父さんが行った学校に行った。This is the final product of I went to school that my dad went. It's really confusing, especially because so far we have learned that main verb goes to the end of a sentence all the time, but then now we have a verb in the middle of a sentence. Because this is weird, this is a good sign to know that noun qualifying sentence is being used. So whenever you see a verb in the middle of a sentence, and then not only verb, but verb and then noun right after that, then you're like, oh, okay, this is the noun qualifying sentence. Noun that blank. Okay? So this grammar point is really confusing and difficult, but super, super, super important. I have shared in the class that the most important, foundation is particle and conjugation. For now, polite, because, this is Genki textbook version. We just learn using polite speech first, when casual speech is the most important conjugation. But the first most important foundation of Japanese is particles and conjugation. Sorry, mine's just too lazy to write. On top of this, the next foundation is conjugation of casual speech and noun qualifying sentence here. So this grammar point is the second most important foundation. And then on top of this, we continue to build more vocab, more grammar points, kanji, and those. But these two levels of foundation is the most important, okay? This is the Genki textbook version because they teach you polite speech first, but in general, not Genki textbook. The in general version is basically the bottom foundation is particle and conjugation, casual conjugation. The second foundation is just noun qualifying sentence. This grammar point we learned just now. This the sole foundation, the second most important foundation. And then on top of that, you build up vocab, kanjis, grammar points. So it is super, super important. Why is it important? Because many grammar points use noun qualifying sentence. We actually have been using many of the grammar points that we have already learned do use noun qualifying sentence. Let me look up. Let's see what grammar points have we learned. I guess we haven't really learned grammar points that uses. Okay, I guess so far we haven't learned any grammar point that uses noun qualifying sentence, but from now on, we will be learning a lot of grammar points using noun qualifying sentence. So whenever we learn those grammar points, right, it's up to you. If you just want to blindly memorize, which will take time and lots of repetition, or if you know noun qualifying sentence, then you can understand the origin of the grammar point. With that, you don't need to blindly memorize because you know the meaning of the grammar point. You can come up with it even if you forget how to say, and then still use it. So that's why I do really want you to master this. It will take time. This is so important that even chapter 16, second year Genki, covers this grammar point again. So twice. And then later we're going to have another ground point, which is chapter 19 or 20, I think. Another one where there's a question within subsentence. For example, like sentences like, do you remember if I did this? Or like, I don't know whether or not I'm Japanese. Or that kind of, there's a question within a subsentence. That one we'll learn again. So basically 3 times in Genki textbooks, we learn non-qualifying sentence. Why 3 times? Because it's difficult, complicated, and yet it's so important. So Please, let's master this, okay? We're gonna practice more later, but okay. Good. One thing I did say that whatever sentence, sub-sentence, you want to just make it plain and add it. There are some exceptions, but it makes sense. I'm pretty sure you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay. If the ending is noun, present, positive. Again, present positive, right? So for example, if the ending is just Nihonjin, Japanese, then think about it. This is noun, and then this is also noun. We're connecting directly to noun. Since it's noun, and we're trying to connect, which particle do we use? It's not, right? Yeah. So just make sure you remember if the ending is just noun, present positive, then it's noun and noun. So this rule takes over and use no. What about non-adjective? I did say 99% is the same way, but this one is one of them when it's different. This one too, it makes sense. For example, if we have kirei at the end of subsentence and then noun here, right? Okay, non-adjective and noun. How do we connect? Put in na, right? That's why it's called non-adjective. So this one we do put na, which is different from noun version no. But these stuff, put in na to connect an adjective to a noun, put in no to connect a noun to a noun, we have learned. So shouldn't be too difficult. You just want to, make sure you understand. You remind yourself. Okay. Okay, so this is the rule. We'll practice more later, but this is the rule. Again, it's so important. So to watch this maybe a couple times or something so that you really understand. Just to, okay. If it helps you understand better, for example, back to that sentence, right? I went to school, my dad went. English sentence structure is subsentence follows right after the noun. But Japanese sentence structure, we put it right before the noun, right? So with this, it's kind of, this is, like really, I'm forcing myself to try to put this Japanese sentence structure in an English sentence. Hi. So it's basically the difference between these two sentences. I went to a school, my dad went, versus I went to a my dad went school. Like in English, we can sometimes say like this, like, maybe more understandable sentences. I went to a newly made school. I went to a newly made school. If we want to paraphrase this, we can say, I went to school that was newly made, right? But then we can usually put in like hyphens and stuff, right? Dash. We can, if we want, in some cases, put subsentence before the noun in English. This structure is basically the Japanese structure. If that helps you understand the difference between this. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the other particles. Sorry, not particles. Grammar points. Just two more grammar points. Last one is something that we have already learned, so it's easy. So we're almost done. Okay. More means already. Mada means still. This is important. First step for you to know the literal meaning of more and mada. Oops, already. Okay. With already, we can say something like, I already did homework. Already is connected to did verb. So it's an adverb, right? Because it's connected to verb. What do I say about adverb? When it comes to particles, we don't need to put any particle, right? Particle always have to be after noun. But since this is adverb, we don't need to put anything. So more, shukudai, shukudai o shimashita. And that's it. It is okay to put like shukudai o mo shimashita. That's fine too. And this means I already did homework. Pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Okay, so it's this one, mada. For mada, we use mada usually to say something like, I haven't done homework yet. Okay. This one too, the still is describing or connected to the verb, so it's adverb, so we don't need any particle. So, mada shukudai o shite imasen, or casual version, shite inai. Now, let's compare with the already version. Okay, already version is past positive. I already did something. I mean, it makes sense. But when it comes to I haven't done, we are in Japanese using te, not the negative version of ing, right? The te iru ground point, right? Why is this? Why is this? Think about it. Why, for something that we haven't done, we have to change to teiru? And also, it's not past tense. Here it's past tense, but it's not past tense. Here it's present tense. I think you can figure out if you just think about the nature of the action here, right? Yeah. So, もう宿題をしました。I already did homework. Since you already did, past tense. Makes sense. I haven't done homework yet. This one, we haven't done it. So it cannot be past tense, right? Because you didn't do it. So now we understand that it's present tense. But then what about teiru? If you remember teiru can mean ongoing action, like right now I'm studying, or status, right? Like I'm wearing a shirt, I'm married, that kind of stuff, right? We're using the status meaning. I'm not doing homework and still not doing. So as a status, I haven't done. Does it make sense? Continuously, we are not doing as a status. So that's why we have to use teiru, the negative form of teiru. That makes sense, if that makes sense. So, and this, common mistake is that people do forget about this. And For example, common mistake, しません。まだ宿題をしません. Just normal negative. Or make it past tense or whatever. None of these will make sense. If you want to say, I haven't done yet, this kind of meaning, right? Make sure you remember, okay, I haven't done, I continuously haven't done. So I have to make it into status form because I haven't done. We can't make it past tense because I didn't do it. So present tense, status, and I haven't, so negative. Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah. Okay. So this is the ground point for this. But there's one more that I want to teach you that's not on the textbook. So it's optional, of course, but it is really useful. So I want you to know. Okay. Positive conjugation. When we connect more with positive, this is what we learned. More 宿題した. I already did something. What if we connect more already with negative? For example, more 宿題をしない. Literal meaning will be, I already won't do homework. I already won't do homework. What would that mean? This would mean, I won't do homework anymore with that negative connotation. Okay? Like remember, sorry, not remember. Like for example, let's say you're doing homework and you come across this difficult question. You don't know how to do it. You go to your roommate because your roommate knows, maybe can help. And your roommate, starts to teach you, right? Explain to you. But then after 10 minutes, your roommate's like, hey, actually, this is a prank. Everything that I have taught you so far are lies. Just pranking you, which is just fucking annoying stuff, right? I mean, no one would do this. But imagine that happened to you. You asked for help. Your roommate you thought was helping you, but then the whole thing was just lie. Then you're gonna be like, okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna do homework anymore. You know, like you cook something for your roommate and your roommate says this is fucking disgusting. I hate it. Then you're gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna cook for you anymore. That kind of anymore, the negative connotation it will mean. So this is really good. It's really useful. So that's why I want you to know. Okay. まだ、まだする. This one. Just literal meaning. For example, if you want to say, hey, Takeshi is still studying. Takeshi はまだ勉強している. So you can just simply use this in positive sentence too, which is convenient, right? And then this negative version is what we have covered in textbook. まだ, oops, まだ何々ていません. Like the te to form negative, right? I haven't done yet. So with that, the textbook teaches you, textbook teaches you this more plus positive and mada plus negative. But like I said, this more plus negative and mada plus positive are equally useful. So just letting you know. Okay, last ground point for this chapter. Really easy. It's something that we have already learned. It's the color. meaning because, right? Okay, so in what was it, last semester, the ground point that we learned was result, end of sentence, reason, kara is what we learned, right? For example, たけしは let's just do T. たけしさんは日本語を話します。たけし speaks Japanese. 日本人ですから because he's Japanese, right? This new ground point for this chapter, chapter 9, is that we can say this sentence, these two sentences in one sentence. How do we do it? Reason から comma result. And that's it. So, たけしは日本人ですから、日本語を話します。Same thing. Just two ways of, saying reason and result. Nothing new. Important point about these two. Common mistake is that people do mix up which side has to be the result, which side has to be the reason. Some people do get confused. My recommendation: no matter which way you use, kara has to always be with reason. Just remember this. As long as you remember that reason has to always be with kara, then no matter which way you put result, it will still make sense. Okay? So just remember this and you're good. Okay. Hi. That's it for all the ground points for chapter 9. Yeah. I'll talk to you later.